So what we're going to work on today is the sock sewing pattern. Now, what you should have a image of your sock creature. If it's not colored, make sure that you label it with the different items that you're going to include in your sock creature. A lot of times students come with white socks, however they have plans for actually having their sock creature colored, but you can't change the color of your sock once you start. So whatever color you want your sock creature to be, you need to bring that color sock. Then you need to start making your sewing pattern. The body is going to start out flat. You're going to go ahead and the legs are going to be right here. Anytime you start drawing where you're going to cut, it's going to be a dash line. You need to label what your items are. This is going to be the torso, and this will be the head. Now this line right here, that is stating to sew it, not to actually cut it. And you'll do a running stitch later to complete your head. The majority of your sock creatures are going to start out like this. So your first sock, again, is going to be laid out flat. And I'll give you an example of that. So to lay it out flat, usually you're used to having your socks like that. You're going to, first, when you actually start drawing it on your sock creature, you're going to pull it inside out. But an example of it, how it's actually flat, is just like this. Okay, so this is actually the heel, and that will end up, it can be a belly, it can be a butt. If you're doing a penguin, you could cut this part off and make this a tail if you cut this way. If you don't want it there, you can cut above and have this be your body. Or if you just want nothing, but you definitely want the legs, you can actually cut this piece off either straight across and do a stitch straight across, or you can cut it like this. Okay, so fold it, stitch it all the way across. It really just depends up to you. Use your creativity, but you also need to use your problem-solving skills. So, for sock 1, which is my head, my torso, and my legs, I have drawn everything on there. I'm going to flip back. I like to constantly flip back from my original image to my actual sock pattern that I've been drawing so that I know exactly what I need. So the head, the torso, and the legs are taken care of. Now we need to work on all the appendages or extremities. All those little extra pieces. Those are going to come from your second sock. Okay? So again, your second sock are all your appendages. You're going to draw them on to your sock. You need to make sure that you draw them life size. So, I've drawn my arms. The best place to draw your arms are right here at the bottom, the tube of the sock, because if you sew right here, if you draw your sock, say in the middle, your arm in the middle of the sock, then what's going to happen is you're going to have all this extra sewing right here. So you have just this and that to stitch instead of the whole piece. And what I'm talking about is, let's see. So I've already done some legs. Oh, here we go. So my example of the arm is this right here, which I've already started sewing. But again, I'm only going to have this right here and this seam, again, instead of having this whole seam, which is already complete, as you can see. Okay. Then, if you have any extra items that you are not cutting out of your sock, but you're cutting them out of an extra piece of fabric, so for flipping back, I have decided that my antlers, or my horns and my longhorn, are going to be cut out of orange felt.
Down the street.
I'm going to cut it down here.
There's nothing more random and senseless than what happened to the lamp.
So you need to have a separate sheet showing what you're drawing it out of. Again, I have labeled what my items are. And then for the tail, I even get specific in the fact that this part right here, I'm actually going to cut it up and fray it, and that will be my tail. Some common mistakes that I see are cutting the muzzle down here. Again, if you cut the muzzle down here, you're going to have to not only stitch this part, you're going to have to stitch this as well. It's easier to go ahead and cut it from here or from the heel of the sock. Also, if you want hats, this is a great place to cut a hat from. You could also say you could do a t-shirt if you just wanted to cut some holes right there, and then a neckline. Okay, this I constantly see this. These are eyes with the pupils in the center. Now, if I were to cut these out of my sock and then cut the pupil out, basically all you're going to have is a piece of sock material basically in the shape of a donut. You're not going to have a pupil. And the funny thing is, you need to think about color again. If your sock is white and you want the eye of the white of the eye to be white, then you can cut out the white of the eye. However, your pupil, if you cut it out of white fabric, it's going to be white. It's not going to magically turn black. The best place to cut a tail is this area right here. Use and position your items carefully on your sock instead of just placing them hodgepodge anywhere. Really think about what you're doing. The reason why this is the best place to cut a tail is because it's already naturally curved. So I'm using the curve of the sock to enhance my tail and give it a curve. Now if you want a straight tail, then use this portion. Again, it's best to have your items along the edge of your sock because of lessening the amount of sewing that you have to do. So also again, I see items just kind of thrown in the middle. Another thing again is that you need to think about proportion and size when you're drawing. I often see students who draw really tiny arms. Well, your arms aren't going to be that tiny when you actually start cutting them out. You need to have a pattern that's going to look exactly like what you're going to sew. Once you have completed your pattern, you should really double check with a partner. Switch patterns and your sock creature original to have ideas about and compare and contrast what needs to be fixed, what can be better, and what they did a great job on, what they didn't. And that's it. Thank you.